So it is my job to present you with the best analysis I can. And that not only includes, that's not only me, that includes other people. So I searched around in my mind to find a guest after the president's speech who wouldn't cheap shot Mr. Biden. Because that's easy, that's all day long, you're going to hear that for the next week or so, okay? But somebody who really knows the turf and who knows Mr. Biden and who was once a vice presidential candidate for president. The man is Senator Joseph Lieberman. Now, he served 24 years. He retired in 2013, but he's still very active abroad, knows everybody, okay? Been to Afghanistan, Middle East, all kinds of times, all right? He knows a lot more about Afghanistan than President Biden does. So joining us now from Riverdale, New York, is the aforementioned Senator Joseph Lieberman. Now, in my opinion, I've known you for decades. You know as much about the world, American foreign affairs, as anybody does. So if you were president in 2021, how would you have handled Afghanistan?
Well, thanks, Bill. First, I want to accept your nomination. That was really the easiest nomination I ever had. It's a great question, and I would have handled it very differently. I believed for some years that we were actually no longer at war, we the U.S., in Afghanistan, that we were there fundamentally on a counterterrorism mission to stop Afghanistan from again being used as a base from which to attack us and our allies. And we were doing it very successfully, as you know, down to 2,500 troops from over 150,000 before. We were given kind of morale, backup support, some air cover, some intelligence to the Afghan military and the government, and that was enough to keep them going and to hold off the Taliban. So I think the decision made by President Biden and contemplated by President Trump was essentially a surrender to an enemy, the Taliban, that we had already defeated, and an invitation to exactly the kind of chaos that has occurred in Afghanistan over the last several weeks. And it hasn't.
Now, this has evolved from the Trump administration, and the former president told me that he wanted to pull out for two reasons. Number one, that he didn't want American service people over there in any danger at all. And number two, that he didn't believe the billions of dollars that we had to spend to keep anybody there was worth it, that we didn't get as much intel to justify that kind of expenditure. But he also told me that he would never, ever have pulled out the way that President Biden did. And if the Taliban violated the agreement and he were still president, he would have attacked the Taliban militarily. So that's President Trump's story. President Biden's story is that the American people demanded that everybody be pulled out of there, and it was his mandate to do it. Do you buy that?
I don't buy it. I mean, I never buy conducting American foreign policy or national security based on public opinion polls. You're elected to be the commander in chief. You got to do what you yourself think is best for our country's security. But listen, President Biden believed for a long time now that we should be out of Afghanistan. And I didn't get it because listen, last year, General Jack Keane, the former vice chief of the Army, and I wrote an open letter to President Trump and really same thing to President Biden. Don't pull out because you're going to have to reconstitute that counterterrorism mission that you've got now in Afghanistan. Is it costly? It is. Is it worth it for our security? I believe it is. You know, there was an interesting story, never denied by the Biden administration, that at the meeting that President Biden held with President Putin of Russia in June, Biden told Putin that he hoped to essentially reconstitute America's counterterrorism center in Central Asia from Afghanistan to a neighboring friendly country. And Putin said, no way. I'm afraid Biden withdrew the plan. Well, that shows you why what we've been doing in Afghanistan, and even Biden, I think, understood it as he got closer to the actual pullout from Afghanistan, was really important to our security. I hope the Taliban changes, but
They're not
that
going
was
to change, Senator. Both you and I in our lifetime know they're not going to change, and terrorism will ramp up out of Afghanistan. Now, you made a very, very important and I think brilliant point, and I'm not just blowing smoke at you. The Afghan war had really ended. There hadn't been an American casualty in more than a year. Now, part of that was because of Trump. Trump told the Taliban on the phone that if they attacked Americans, he was going to kill them personally with drones. And because of what happened to al-Baghdadi and Soleimani, they believed him. However, once Biden took over, then it seems to me that there was no one in charge of drawing down and closing it up, because it's incomprehensible that you would abandon Bagram Air Force Base, and both you and I have been there. We know how big it is and how secure it is. They're holding 1,000 ISIS prisoners there, all right? And you got buku American arms all over the place. You abandon it. For what reason? Why? Why would you do that ever? I don't understand it. Has anybody given you a reason?
No good reason. The only good reason, and it's a terrible reason, is that maybe this is what they thought would please the Taliban. But the Taliban are our enemy. Come on, wake up, folks. They've been trying to kill us, and they have killed a lot of us for a long time. So the years ahead are full of danger for us. But you're absolutely right. Bagram became really a first-class airport outside of all the urban congestion of Kabul. It would have been a place for a much better, smoother, safer evacuation.
Yeah, and you could have shipped those ISIS prisoners out of there to other prisons around the world. Now, the other thing that absolutely drives me crazy, I don't know one NATO nation or one American ally, and maybe you do, that thinks Biden did a good job in getting out of Afghanistan. Is there one country in the world that thinks he did a good job that you know of?
No, nobody who's an ally of ours. I'm sure the Iranians are happy at how he did. The Chinese and the Russians are, because it mortified and embarrassed and weakened the United States. But your point is a really good one, Bill, because we've been used to for a long time thinking, we're the leaders and we drag the Europeans and our NATO allies along. Here, they were much more on target about what we should do than President Biden and his administration were, because they didn't, all along, they wanted more time to evacuate. I want to come back to your point. I've made it clear, I didn't agree with the whole idea of withdrawing from Afghanistan. But if you're going to decide to do it, I mean, come on, we have more competence than that. It was just a disaster, chaos. Nobody really planned. And then all along, we kept yielding to the Taliban. You don't want us to be involved in the evacuation after August 31st, even though we've told you, United States of America, strongest country in the world, that we want to get this done and do it after the 31st. Okay, if that's what you say, we're getting out on the 31st. You can't be a safe nation, or let alone a great nation, if you start yielding and knuckling under to terrorists like the Taliban, who are and always will be.
All right, I've saved my toughest question for last, Senator, and I'm sorry I have to ask you this question. As an American, I'm sorry I have to ask this question. You have known Joe Biden up close and personal for decades. Is he a diminished man, in your opinion?
Well, frankly, I haven't spent time with him in the last year or so I can't tell you personally. I just think that the Biden that I see in the White House is not the Biden I served with all those years. And what I mean is he's let himself be pulled along domestically by the left wing of the party, which will take America and the Democratic Party nowhere good. And on something like this, now, really on foreign policy, he and I disagreed, that we remained friends a lot. I think he's been wrong on Afghanistan for a long time. And here he had the opportunity to implement that wrong policy with disastrous consequences for our security and the loss of lives of American soldiers, and just terrible things ahead for Afghanistan. So, I'm concerned about it. I am. I don't think he's diminished per se. I don't know enough to say that, but I think he's made some big mistakes, and this is probably the biggest of all since he's been president. Incidentally, Bill, one last word. He's got more self-interest than anybody else. He's been very defensive, a few times acknowledging the heartbreak with everything happening in Afghanistan. He's really got to do what President Kennedy did after the Bay of Pigs and do a tough, no-holds-barred internal investigation of, even if you assume that he won't change his mind about withdrawing, how did the evacuation get so screwed up? And if he finds people wanting who are around him, he better let them go and get a better team, and he better think about his own behavior in the next crisis. I wrote somewhere in an article that if this was a parliamentary democracy, the Biden government after Afghanistan would probably fall.
Yeah, it would have
but
fallen.
It's not. Yeah,
There's no
he's
doubt
got
about it. Right.
He's got 3.5 years, and he better make sure that he's ready for those 3.5 years, and that he can give the country the kind of leadership it deserves.
Yeah, I have no confidence in that. Hey, Senator, thanks for taking the time to talk with us. It's very good to see you. You're looking very well.
You too, Bill.
And I hope we can talk again soon. Thank you very much.
Me too. God bless.
Hey, I'm sure you've noticed that everything is getting more expensive. And with all this printing money and spending by the progressives, I'm concerned the dollar's end could be near. If the government continues this way, the dollar could freefall and lose its coveted role as the world's reserve currency. That's why there's never been a more important time to consider gold and silver to protect you and your family. And American Hartford Gold is the only company I'm happy to put my name behind. I have done business with them myself. It just takes a quick phone call and they'll have physical gold and silver delivered right to your door or put inside your IRA. Plus, tell them Bill O'Reilly sent you and they'll give you up to $2,500 of free silver on your first order. So please don't wait. Call 866-501-5201, 866-501-5201, or text Bill to 65532. Again, 866-501-5201, or text Bill to 65532. Bill O'Reilly here. Thank you for watching this video, and make sure you subscribe to the First TV YouTube page. Just hit the big red subscribe button below, and you'll get clips and highlights of my program, The No Spin News, every single day. We'll see you soon.